Hi guys, welcome back to the Quick Slant on Green Bay Packer Nation, and today we're going to be talking about the new road to the playoffs, so stick around. Well, hopefully you've had a chance to recover from the shock of losing Aaron Rodgers for the season. It's definitely been a rough week, no question about that, especially in light of the fact that we couldn't pull it off against our arch rivals, the Vikings, at the Pretty Princess Palace. However, I don't think, and I think most people agree, I don't think this is an absolutely lost cause. A couple reasons. First and foremost is Aaron and company got us out to a 4-2 start, which, yeah, maybe it'd be great if we were sitting in a position where we were 6-0 and only needed another 4 wins somehow to make it into the playoffs. But the fact that we have a 4-2 start really is pretty substantial, and it gives us a good deal of hope going forward. Now, I think everybody knows that this coming game against New Orleans is probably the key game as far as both our offensive line and our defense and Brett Hundley are concerned. If we can somehow pull off a win against the Saints, then we can slide into the bye week. If we can pull off a win against the Saints, then that means, in my mind, 2 things as far as Hundley is concerned. That means, number one, having a week of practice where he was actually taking reps with the offense has worked to get him more in sync with the receivers. And that's great news because Hundley's got some talent. He's not an Aaron Rodgers. Nobody is. But he's got some talent, and I think he can lead this team more than just manage this team. I think he can lead this team, but he's got to get in sync with the receivers. So if we can pull off a win against the Saints on Sunday, then that to me will say that he's taken a big step towards doing that. Of course, then also that gets us through the bye week, which means he would have 2 weeks work with the offense and kind of start getting that rhythm. Now, I don't think that McCarthy's going to narrow up the playbook for Hundley. He's been around for, 4 years now? 4 years, I think. He knows the playbook inside and out. There are things that we won't be able to do just because it's Brett Hundley and not Aaron Rodgers. Brett I think he has a good arm, but he admittedly does not have the strength in the arm that Aaron does, or I don't think his release is nearly as quick as Aaron's is. So he's not going to be able to do things like contain out of the pocket to the right and throw back left, unless it's a situation where Randall Cobb is kind of freelancing and shakes his defender, has a pretty substantial cushion. Brett's just not going to hit that kind of pass. So I don't think they're going to necessarily narrow up the playbook for him, but there will be things he won't be able to do. Also, let's not forget how critical Aaron is when it comes to reads at the line of scrimmage. There are times when Aaron Rodgers is running that offense. He's calling plays at the line of scrimmage. I don't expect that Hundley will do nearly as much of that as Aaron did, as Aaron typically does. I think he will probably just go with the play that McCarthy has called. He'll have his given options on that play depending on the reads he has at the line of scrimmage, but he's not going to be calling plays in the same way that Aaron Rodgers would. What we really need to get to the playoffs, I think, is I don't really foresee winning the division as a viable option at this point. There's just too much competition, and we're now even with the Vikings, and unless they really stumble, then I don't see us having a chance to win the division. However, a 10-6 record, I believe, could get us into the playoffs. And here's how I think that happens. here's how I think that potentially happens. I think we can go to Soldier Field, and if Hundley plays reasonably well, I think we can beat the Bears. He doesn't have to have a stellar performance, but he has to play reasonably well, and we can beat the Bears. The Steelers, I believe we can beat the Steelers, but it kind of depends on which Steelers team shows up. At times this year, they've been outstanding. At times this year, they've been atrocious, and Steelers fans have been wondering what in the world's wrong with Ben Roethlisberger. So I think there's potential that we could beat the Steelers. I do believe that we'll beat the Buccaneers. I do believe that we can field Ashwaubenon's high school team and beat the Browns. So I believe we'll beat the Browns. And then when the Vikings come to Lambeau, I think we're going to beat the Vikings at Lambeau for two reasons. One, we want to get revenge on that game. And two, we really, aside from miscues such as poor tackling and Brett being fresh on the field and throwing interceptions, aside from those things, we really, even though we had those, we had an opportunity to win that game. Ty dropped a pass that all he had to do was secure it and roll into the end zone. We would have been tied up 14-14. Could have been a very different game at the Pretty Princess Palace. So I do believe we'll beat the Vikings at Lambeau Field. Here are the big question marks in my mind. The Lions at Detroit at the end of the season. I think if Hundley is still at the helm, I don't think we win that game. However, we still don't know if Aaron Rodgers is back running this offense. I believe we go into Detroit, we win that game, and we move into the playoffs. Now, I don't really expect, I'm still going to hope, because, we all want to see Aaron back on the field, but I just don't feel like there's any way Aaron's coming back this season. So that takes us back to the Saints game. If Hundley and company can find a way to pull off a win in this next game, then that would give us the Saints, the Bears, the Steelers, the Bucks, the Browns, and then the Vikings at Lambeau Field. That would be 6 wins. We would end up with a 10-6 record, and I think that would be enough to win a wild card spot and get into the playoffs. So that's kind of my road to the playoffs going forward. This is definitely going to be a challenging stretch for the Packers. When you got a guy like Aaron Rodgers on the field, you can be kind of sloppy in a lot of areas, and he can bail you out. That's not going to be the case anymore. Every phase of the game is going to have to be sharp. We cannot miss tackles. If we secure tackles like we should have against the Vikings, we will win games like we should have against the Vikings. If Brett can get comfortable throwing the ball and get more in sync with his receivers, so the passes aren't quite off the mark like they were against the Vikings, we're going to win games. I don't think we're going to run the table. I don't think anybody does, but we can win some games, and I think we can win enough to get into the playoffs. So that's my hope. I want to hear what you think about it. Give a rundown of the coming games, and let me know which ones you think we have the potential to win and which ones you think are just out of our reach, whether or not you think that we can make it into the playoffs. I'll catch you later. Go Pack.